Suspend the rules and pass H.R. 1644 as amended, on which the ayes and nays are ordered. Clerk will report the title of the bill.
H.R. 1644, a bill to enhance sanctions with respect to transactions related to North Korea and for other purposes.
Good evening. I'm Nomiki Konst. This is Jimmy Dore.
Hello, everybody.
Those were the Democrats singing, "Hey, hey, hey, goodbye" to the Republicans as they voted to repeal Obamacare in Congress today. There were 20 Republicans who voted against it. One was a Freedom Caucus member named Andy Biggs from Arizona because it didn't go far enough. And then there were 19 centrists who decided to actually represent their districts, be courageous. They didn't want to lose their jobs, maybe. They decided that they were going to vote against it. Of course, the House passed to repeal Obamacare, and we have so much to unpack here. There's a lot.
Okay, I'm ready to start unpacking it, and then we'll come to our conclusions.
All right. So, the Democrats were singing that, essentially that they're going to be out of their jobs because they voted against to repeal Obamacare. But what I find fascinating about this is that when the lawmakers were being interviewed, several Republican lawmakers were being interviewed about this, they couldn't answer the specifics about the bill. They couldn't answer what was in the bill. They couldn't. Some admitted not to reading how much did it cost.
Right.
Because they didn't go to the CBO to get an estimate.
Right.
When all of those were their arguments
against Obamacare.
Against Obamacare. So let's play a clip of Paul Ryan in 2009 talking about Obamacare.
He wrote recently in an op-ed in the Milwaukee, Wisconsin Journal on July 18th, before members even had time to read the 1,000-page bill, it already has cleared two major House committees and is set to be fast-tracked through Congress in the days and weeks ahead. Those members of Congress who voted for this bill already in their committees did so without knowing what the legislation cost. Before it's too late, let's take a closer look. And this issue's been around for a long time. Are Republicans being genuine in their complaint that this is moving too quickly?
Well, yes, I don't think we should pass bills that we haven't read, that we don't know what they cost. I mean, I don't think that's being effusive.
So let us pass this bill to take the next step to put Obamacare behind us. That is what is at stake today. And that is why I am going to be so proud to cast my vote for this legislation, and I urge all of my colleagues to do the same.
That was Paul Ryan. Today, 8 years later, contradicting himself, of course, when it's convenient for his own political agenda. My favorite part is that they're talking about how this bill that they're presenting, the counter offer to Obamacare, is going to save consumers money.
Yes, because now you won't have to worry about paying for medicine or anything. You just won't get it.
You'll just die.
Yeah, you'll just die. So that's going to save you a lot of money, and then you can take those monies you saved through this bill and you can put it into your funeral.
Which is also very expensive.
I mean, those are expensive too. So they're helping people. This is a free market approach. We're going to see nicer funerals.
Nicer funerals.
That's what's going to be. So here's the thing, right? So if you remember Obamacare when it passed, the next election, those Democrats got hammered who helped pass the Obamacare, right? So now, if the Democrats are worth their salt, which they are not, because they proved they just lost the most winnable race in the history of our country. They just lost it, and they are wiped out at every level of government. Why? Because they're also Republicans. There's no point for the Democrats to exist right now. The reason why this is happening is because when the Democrats had complete control of government, they passed a right-wing bullshit corporate giveaway healthcare plan, which is what this is. Instead of passing what they should have passed, which was single payer Medicare for all. That would never get repealed, just like Social Security is never getting repealed. Those are that's the most popular health insurance program in the nation is Medicare. So if the Democrats would have did what Democrats were supposed to do and passed Medicare for all in 2009, they would, by the way, Barack Obama would be on Mount Rushmore right now. And they would have complete control of government. But instead, they passed a right-wing healthcare plan with zero cost controls. They got it stuck in their teeth. They got it stuck in their ass is what I wanted to say, the next election, and now they're wiped out. They lost 1,000 seats in state houses. They lost 2/3 of the governorship. They are wiped out. Nobody in the Congress, nobody in the Senate, and they just lost to Donnie Tynahands. But if they would have did what Democrats are supposed to do, what Harry Truman said we should have done, what everybody has always been championing until this frickin' last election as a Democrat, which is single-payer health care, if they would have done that, we wouldn't be having this today. Nobody would be losing their health care today because they wouldn't be able to repeal single payer Medicare for all health care. But because the Democrats are so corrupted and so in bed with big pharma and the health insurance and Wall Street, now we're getting Obamacare repealed, which is just a right-wing health care plan anyway. Don't forget that. So we would have, by the way, which we would have had, this is their version of Obamacare, by the way, which is a little shittier version of Obamacare.
Exactly.
And so now it's up to the Democrats to make them pay the price politically for this, right? And take back over government. I predict the Democrats will not be able to do it.
Well, they already said it today. Nancy Pelosi was asked straight up, are you going to present single payer? Are you going to add in the public option? Are you going to bring some Nope, I'm not going to do an alternative. It's not politically feasible, she says. But I recall in 2009 hearing this incrementalism talk. No, this is one step and we're going to move in that direction. Mm-hmm. And of course, now Justice Democrats has been a big part of this. There are quite a few Democrats out there calling for single payer Medicare for all. Nancy Pelosi is not one of them. I don't, why do you think she doesn't want to go for an alternative? When the Republicans present something this horrendous, wouldn't you present an alternative to get people excited, to get people on board, to go campaign for you in these primaries?
Well, I'm going to guess it's the reason why they're wiped out. It's the reason why we have Donald Trump as president. The reason is because Nancy Pelosi and the Democratic leadership is in bed with Wall Street, Big Pharma, the military-industrial complex, the fossil fuels, and Silicon Valley. Exactly the people who they're supposed to be fighting against, the people they're supposed to be regulating in favor of their constituencies. You cannot be in bed with Wall Street and serve workers. The Wall Street's agenda is to screw over American workers, take the good jobs here, turn them into low-paying jobs, and send them to poor people in more desperate situations in other poorer countries. That's what Wall Street's agenda is. So you cannot serve Wall Street and you cannot serve workers at the same time. That's why Nancy Pelosi won't go for single payer, because the donor class isn't for single payer. Why wouldn't you be for single payer when the majority of Americans are for it? Why isn't the public option in this bill in the first place when the Democrats had complete? Because the donors don't want it. That's why. And that's why Nancy Pelosi has got to go.
That's why all of these guys have got to go. But their talking points aren't working either. I mean, these are corporate talking points that their lobbyists work with them and they're tested. They're not working anymore. They're being caught in these lies, both the Democrats and the Republicans. The Congressional Budget Office reported in March that the original GOP healthcare bill would reduce the deficit by more than $300 billion over a decade. But lawmakers have made several major costly changes to the bill since then and are not seeking an updated score. So 8 years ago, if this kind of thing happened, I don't think people would be paying attention. People are paying attention right now.
You mean about a CBO score?
Yes.
No, you are correct.
They didn't even know what the CBO was 8 years ago.
You are correct about that also. Yes, that is right. People are now paying attention. The corporate Democrats are now on notice. Nancy Pelosi still doesn't get it because when you jam $100 million in your ear, it's hard to hear your constituents over the clamor of the Benjamins rolling around in your ear hole. That's the problem with Nancy Pelosi. That's the problem with Chuck Schumer. There's no problem with progressives. The progressive agenda is the most popular agenda in the country right now. Bernie Sanders is about 20 percentage points more popular than Elizabeth Warren, who's also a progressive. So the two most popular politicians in the whole goddamn country are progressives. You know who's not popular? Corporatists, Nancy Pelosi, Chuck Schumer, Donnie Tynahands, and the entire Republican Congress. Not popular. Watch the Democrats not know how to capitalize on this. Watch them go ahead and nominate more corporatists. Watch Nancy Pelosi say, no, we're not. We're going to keep doing Romney care. That's what she wants to do. I want to replace Trump care with Romney care. And you wonder why You wonder why the Democrats are wiped out. You wonder why this is why they're wiped out. And they have, talk about a tin ear. That is a tin ear, ladies and gentlemen. And so what people are left with again is, oh, we have a shitty corporate right-wing plan from the Democrats or a shittier right-wing corporate plan from the Republicans. And they think that's going to win them elections. They got another thing coming.
You know, and it's interesting you say that because Nancy Pelosi later went on to say in this quote when she was asked on the floor, oh, we should leave it up to the states. I'm sorry.
She sounds like a Republican.
There are 7 states right now, 6 states, should be 7, we'll get to that story later, that are controlled by Democrats, meaning the House, however the states are made up, the state houses and the governorships. So somehow we're gonna pass transformative, sweeping Medicare for all when we barely control seats at the state level because the Democratic Party was funneling all this money up to the top, not sending it to the states, not recruiting candidates, not organizing, not training, not making any changes because they needed to make money at the consultant level, at the national level, so they could go out there and recruit candidates who could raise a lot of money and not get elected. And that's why we're in this situation. Okay. We have been hijacked. This party, the party of workers, has been hijacked by Republicans. It's not even corporatists. It's Republicans. That's what's happening right now. Yeah. You don't deflect your responsibility as a leader in Congress, the Democratic leader in Congress, to the state level when you know very well there is no power at the state level right now. This is ridiculous. 24 million people will possibly lose their health insurance. You have women who can't access mammograms. Planned Parenthood is now going to be defunded. Nancy Pelosi, did you hear that? Did you hear that? Planned Parenthood is going to be defunded across the country. If you've been raped, I'm sorry, that's a pre-existing condition. So try not to get raped. Try not to be too rapey. Because if you get a little rapey, you're not going to be able to access health care. That's what we're dealing with right now.
So I'll make a little prediction that we will see single payer, I'm going to say inside a decade. And why is that? Well, because Charles Krauthammer, of all people, last week came out in favor of single payer. He's not in favor of it. He's in favor of acknowledging the reality that it's inevitable. And that's what he said. He said, because of all this Obamacare talk, people now know what single payer means. That's what he says. It's now universal coverage has to be part of everyone's plan. Already, Charles Krauthammer, there's nobody farther right than Charles Krauthammer. He's already saying that. He's saying that it is inevitable that single payer is coming. By the way, it's overwhelmingly popular with the American people. So now that if we don't get it, now we know we're living in a completely corrupt country, the kind of country we used to make fun of. Now we become that kind of country. Now we have less economic mobility. Now we have more pollution. Now we have half the country who's poor and poverty in the richest country in the world. What do you call a system? What do you call that when you take the richest country the face of the earth has ever seen and you render half the people who live there poor and poverty? You call that a failed system. And Nancy Pelosi has no problem with that system because when she was asked about it, about capitalism versus socialism, she was just like, we're capitalists and that's it. And no introspection, no nothing. No, she doesn't feel the pain of anybody. When you, by the way, Nancy Pelosi, which I appreciate, every day she gets her hair blown out. She goes to the hair blown place, right? Which is fantastic, right? I don't think you can feel people's pain. That's all I'm saying. When you're worth $100 million and you do the kind of things and you hang out with the kind of people Nancy Pelosi does and you say the kind of stupid crap you say when people are hurting and begging at the top of their lungs at town halls for you to endorse single payer, which everyone knows is the Democratic ideal, which everyone knows is the most efficient healthcare plan, which everyone knows is already the most popular. The only reason you would not go along with your constituents and actually put in place the plan that would actually help people, you would, because you want the donors to be happier than you want your constituents to be happier. You would rather please your donors and keep the status quo going than actually help people. And that's why we're primarying Nancy Pelosi.
You know, this is the type of thing that so many people in the Democratic Party got into politics for. They wanted, so many people have individual stories about their family members including Republicans, not having access to health care at important moments, not being able to afford critical care. And it really does affect everybody unless you have that kind of wealth that insulates yourself from the tragedies of life, including Barack Obama.
Including?
He shared the story of his mother not being able, having cancer, not being able to she couldn't access the health care that she needed. And so, Obamacare, not perfect. We know that. And I think we were willing to concede 8 years ago because we thought that there were those people like Nancy Pelosi, who was very important in that fight for Obamacare. She was. She wrangled the votes that she needed, even though we controlled, both branches. But we weren't facing the opposition we have today. And at these moments, when you're staring in the face of fascism, and there are elections today where we have another important ally who faces fascism. What do? We just sit there? We just sit there and say, no, we're not going to fight because it's not politically feasible? It's not politically feasible because fascists are controlling our government. What are you supposed to do in the face of fascism? Just sit there and take your donor checks and leave it to the states that you don't control? Absolutely not. 24 million people are potentially going to lose their health care. That doesn't even mention those who don't have access to it right now. We're very emotional about this. I think our audience is very emotional about this right now. There are journalists who are emotional about this. It is, it's egregious. I mean, there was an article that I just saw posted about, this is my favorite, the irony of this, and this is exactly how Washington works. There's a provision in this new bill, which we're still learning about, finding out what's inside of it, that protects congressmen. With pre-existing conditions. I wonder who lobbied for that one last minute after hearing all these Republican congressmen step up and say, we need to cover pre-existing conditions, not just because it's politically opportunistic for them to do so, but it's also personally affecting them. Of course, congressmen have very good health care for life. If you've been unseated, you have that health care for life in Congress. So they know how important this is, and of course they wrote it in for themselves.
So when do the Trump voters start to realize that they're chumps? When does that happen? Now, you know that I feel very comfortable saying that about Trump voters because I don't disparage Trump voters. I understand that we needed to smash the establishment. But you also realize that he is a complete charlatan. And I ripped the Democrats probably harder than I ripped the Republicans. So that's why I feel okay saying this right now. This isn't partisan, right? That you have to be as blind as a bat to not see that Trump is a complete charlatan and he will blow whatever which way the wind is blowing. He's going to go that way. But rest assured that whatever he does, it's not going to help you. Whatever he does is not going to be there to help you. Yeah, he got rid of the TPP, but the TPP was already dead. Barack Obama couldn't pass it anyway. Right. It was already gone. So what has he really done to help you? He just cut $1 trillion in taxes from the richest MFers in the whole country so he could take your health care away. And people go, you want to have Medicare for all? Who's going to pay for that? He just gave $1 trillion tax break. That's who could pay for it. We have the money. The people in this country have the money. You know, when you get wealthy off the system, you're supposed to give back to the system. They're not doing it anymore. So that's why they got rid of the estate tax. That's why now you can send your money offshore and Trump's going to let them bring it back in for no tax. So this is what Trump does, right? So if you think Trump was actually going to help the little guy, you're a chump. If you were just wishing on a prayer that he might have, then you're not a chump, because that's what everybody, I think most of the people thought he was a charlatan. Right. But now it's revealed that the hope that he wouldn't be who he presented to be is over. He is who he presented to be. He's a billionaire who doesn't give a shit about you, and he's going to screw you at every turn. He already took away, he's getting rid of your net neutrality. Now they can sell your browsing to corporations. You have no privacy whatsoever. He didn't get rid of the surveillance state. He sold it to corporate America. He started bombing Syria. He's not a non-interventionist. He's intervening more than Barack Obama did. So everything Trump said he was is now revealing that he's the opposite. Now, I'm not saying that we should put in another corporate Democrat. I'm saying the exact opposite. We should put in someone like Bernie Sanders. Now it's time to have a revolution in the country. People are sick and tired of the establishment. That's why Trump's there in the first place. He's not the problem. He's the symptom. Yep. This is a symptom of the problem. What's happening today is a symptom. The problem was we didn't pass single payer in 2009 when we had complete control, filibuster-proof control of the Senate. That's the problem. And the symptom is Trump. This is another symptom. When Democrats and lefties get control of government, they govern like right-wing corporatists. That's the problem. And if you think it's going away because Trump is such an incompetent, it's not going away. Tom Perez and Chelsea Clinton, and they're all waiting to implement more neoliberalism. They're still trying to make Bernie Sanders, he's not a Democrat anymore.
Yeah.
They're still, Ms. Magazine still writing articles about how they wish he was dead. So the most popular politician in the country, who all he wants to do is bring health care and get money out of politics so we can actually have a democracy again that responds to the people. And those are the people shitting on him. So it's time for a revolution. And if it doesn't come, things are going to get even worse.
You know, I love that you said that, because Hillary Clinton today announced that they're going to be starting a new organization to help with the resistance. And she said she was part of the resistance. Maybe this is a little controversial. I'm not part of the resistance. I don't want a resistance. I want a revolution. You can't just resist.
Nice.
You have to revolt. You have to actually, and this is something that Cenk says a lot, that you need a revolution. You can't just resist everything. You actually have to have answers. It's great to be the opposition party, but if you don't have answers, those voters have nowhere to go, and that's how you got Trump. When you don't talk about economics, when you don't actually fight for the workers, when you don't fight for education, and you're all about charter schools, you have a population, a base population that does not have access to the information that they need because they're not going to good schools, because you're not fighting for them. And then that's when you have populations that vote for these charlatans. Now, I predict that a lot of these people, an evolution of the Tea Party, they're going to get incredibly frustrated. I think they're going to come to our side. It's already happening. You saw it with Bernie Sanders in the election. I have a Republican uncle who told me a few weeks ago that if he could have voted for Bernie Sanders in the primary, he would have voted for Bernie Sanders in the primaries. This is somebody I've debated my entire life. And that was the moment where I said to myself, there's something happening here, and if the Democrats don't seize this opportunity, we will cease to exist, and the fascists will take over. But I will say one thing. Senator Schumer, who, as corporate as he is, he knows when the political wind is blowing in a certain direction.
He does do that.
And I'll give him that. If you can change your votes because you know it's not popular to be a corporatist, I'll give you that.
Okay.
So he said, let's put the slide up, what he said to the Republican colleagues today. To my moderate Republican colleagues in the House, I ask, why would you risk a yes vote for a bill that is devastating to your constituents and has virtually a minuscule chance, probably no chance of becoming a law? And that is because of the filibuster. Now, do we expect Senator Schumer to be fighting with some other option with Senator Sanders?
So the problem with, they could push this bill through on reconciliation, but technically they're not supposed to be able to because it raises the deficit, because it cuts money out of health care. So it depends on, of course, I'm sure they're going to cheat and do it that way anyway. So Chuck Schumer, so I hope that they can filibuster it, and if they try to do, I mean, this bill goes against everything the Republicans have claimed to be upset about. First of all, they promised that any bill they passed would have 3 days. You'd have 3 days the public would look at it. They just passed the bill. Nobody's even read the bill. In fact, and we can't even read it. It hasn't even been made public yet. So there's that right there. There's that problem. So I hope that they can do that. And if you take people's health care away, the only thing dumber than that as a political party would be to nominate Hillary Clinton.
Well, I encourage all these Republicans who are going to be angry at their party to come and join our protests. Maybe you'll stop calling them riots for once.
Membership helps fund the Young Turks. You know one great thing about that? That means we're not accountable to anyone but you guys. That's why we're strong together, because we built this show around you. Come build it even bigger and better at tytnetwork.com/join.